1954, a man-made lake was created near the small New York towns of Corfu and Darien Center, and it was to be called Darien Lake. So Darien Lake quickly became a popular swimming destination for many locals, and it operated this way for about 10 years until 1964, when a local businessman by the name of Paul Schneider came along. This fellow was an entrepreneur and clearly had a vision in mind. He originally purchased 164 acres of land right on the shores of Darien Lake and opened a small campground. Now, Mr. Schneider kept buying more and more land nearby over the next couple of years, and in a short period of time, this guy had around 1,000 acres of land. So he doubled the size of his campground and started adding small theme park attractions, such as a pony ride, paddle boats, mini golf, and things like that. A fancy family fun center, if you will. Over the next couple of years, he continued adding attractions, and before he knew it, Mr. Schneider had himself a full-blown amusement park. And in May of 1981, Darien Lake Fun Country officially opened to the general public. Now, Mr. Paul Schneider clearly was an intelligent man. He did a really cool deal with German flat ride manufacturer Huss to showcase their rides to the North American audience. So Darien Lake would get these new bad rides that no one else had in North America at the time, in hopes that other parks would purchase them. It was a good idea and it worked. So coming with that Huss deal in the park's first season, we had UFO, Silver Bullet, and Pirate. And some non-Huss attractions opening up with the park that year were Tin Lizzie's, Thunder Rapids, Cinema 2000, and the infamous Rainbow Mountain. The following year, in 1982, we saw Huss team up with Aerodynamics and push all their chips in as they wanted to try the roller coaster game out. And we saw the debut of Viper, a custom-built looper, and a record breaker as it was the first roller coaster to invert riders 5 times. Also that year, we got the addition of 2 additional Huss flat rides. A swing-around model called Corn Popper, which might be my pick for the most underrated flat ride out there. They're amazing. And we also got one of their Ranger models, appropriately named Ranger. Now, the following year, in 1983, Paul Schneider might have felt a little overwhelmed, I don't know, but he ended up going halfsies with Funtime Inc., a Cleveland-based amusement park operator who is currently operating Geauga Lake out of Aurora, Ohio. So Mr. Schneider continued to own everything, while Funtime Inc. operated everything. And coming with Funtime in their debut season in the park, a 165-foot-tall Vekoma manufactured Ferris wheel known as Giant Wheel. And then they just kinda quit adding things. That was it for the 80s, until the very last year, 1989, when we got the addition of an Intamin River Rapids attraction known as Grizzly Run. 1990 saw the Rainbow Mountain Water Slide Complex get some additions around it and turned into a full-blown water park in Barracuda Bay. Also that year we saw a Din Corporation roller coaster added to the park, known as Predator. Also that year, Mr. Paul Schneider decided he wanted out of the game and he sold all his shares to Funtime, making them the sole owners of the park. 1992 saw some end-of-the-day entertainment added to the park in Laser Night Fantasy, which was later referred to as Ignite the Night. 1994 saw the removal of the Rainbow Mountain Water Slide Complex. Following year, 1995, some big news shook the Funtime owners as Premier Parks purchased Funtime Inc. as a whole. Most notably in the sale included Darien Lake and Geauga Lake. Following year under new management, we saw 3 major additions added to the park. As we saw Barracuda Bay get an expansion, a mini golf course added called Mountain View Golf, and an indoor Schwarzkopf jet star known as Nightmare at Phantom Cave. 1997 saw a Vekoma SLC added to the park in Mind Eraser. Now the last 2 years of the millennium turned out to be arguably the most significant, and definitely the busiest in the park's history, not in terms of attendance, just a lot going on. As we saw park owner Premier Parks get ultra aggressive and purchased all of the Six Flags parks from Time Warner for a ridiculous amount of money. So that changed everything for Darien Lake. But 1998 was also the debut year of Fright Fest in the park. We got a new Vekoma Boomerang coaster called Boomerang Coast to Coaster, and at the end of the year we saw the removal of Cinema 2000 and Nightmare at Phantom Cave. And then went to fellow Six Flags Park Great Escape in Queensbury, New York, where it operated there as Nightmare at Crack Axle Canyon for 7 years before it was officially scrapped in 2006. The following year, in 1999, the park officially opened the season under a new name, Six Flags Darien Lake. Now, coming with the Time Warner purchase brought all kinds of intellectual property, as the Looney Tunes characters and the DC comic book characters were now interjected throughout the park. But most notably, 1999 saw the addition of an Intamin hypercoaster known as Superman Ride of Steel. Standing 208 feet tall, racing guests at 73 miles per hour, an absolute blast of a ride, and it was also the first time Intamin topped the 200-foot mark with a roller coaster. The new millennium saw the addition of a Huss top spin in Twister. 2 years later, in 2002, we got an Intamin Shoot the Chutes known as Shipwreck Falls. And that was the last investment Six Flags made in the park for the time being. And by the time 2006 rolled around, they were openly shopping the park looking for a buyer. And the following year, in 2007, CNL Properties purchased Darien Lake along with 6 other parks, and they immediately hired PARC Park Management to come in and operate the park. And instantly all the Looney Tunes and DC IP was removed from the premises. Most notably, Superman Ride of Steel, moving forward, would now be referred to simply as Ride of Steel. Also that year, Fright Fest was renamed Family Fun Fest. In 2008, we saw the park add a Zamperla Moto Coaster known as Moto Coaster. Was actually known as Orange County Choppers Moto Coaster the first year it opened, but that didn't last long. Fun fact, one of only 2 Zamperla Moto Coasters in North America, the other being Pony Express at Knott's Berry Farm. 2 years later, in 2010, we saw the water park, Barracuda Bay, get renamed to Splash Town. Also that year, PARC Park Management defaulted on its lease with CNL Properties, and the following year, Hershun Family Entertainment, of all people. Most notably, owners and operators of Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri, and Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, stepped up and took over the lease for the next 4 years. Under the 4 years of Hershun's operation of the park, we didn't see much happen. In 2012, we got the addition of a pony trek called Moose on the Loose. That year also saw the removal of the mini golf course Mountain View Golf, and opening day attraction UFO. The following year, in 2013, the park added a 185-foot tall S&S shot tower known as Blast Off. 2 years later, in 2015, after the lease ended with Hershund, Premier Parks LLC took over daily operations of the park. Under that first year under new management, we saw the addition of Rolling Thunder, a Larson Looper, yay. We saw Fright Fest renamed to Harvest Fest, and we also had the removal of Ranger. Following year, in 2016, we saw CNL Properties decide that they didn't want to be in the game anymore, and they sold Darien Lake to EPR Properties, who did honor Premier LLC's lease as they continued to operate the park. What the f***? In the following year, in 2017, we saw the removal of Thunder Rapids. And then in 2018, everything came full circle, as Six Flags took over the lease from Premier LLC. As EPR continues to own the park, Six Flags operates it. And under that first year of Six Flags operation, we got the debut of Tantrum, a Gerstlauer Eurofighter. Ooh, I love me a good Eurofighter. We also saw the removal of Twister, and at the end of the year, we saw the reintroduction to Fright Fest. When the 2019 season rolled around, the park reverted back to its old name and was moving forward known as Six Flags Darien Lake, yet again. Also that year, we got the addition of a 242-foot tall Star Flyer manufactured by Fun Time, called Sky Screamer. And to close out the year, we saw the removal of Grizzly Run. Park did not open at all in 2020, along with the rest of the world. But when the park did reopen the following year for the 2021 season, it was the last operating year of the Giant Wheel. 2022, the water park Splash Town was rebranded to the most boring Six Flags thing that they have going on, because they call all their water parks Hurricane Harbor, this one now included. Six Flags Darien Lake has just enough to offer to bring in something for everyone. With its little bit of thrill rides, a little bit of family rides, it really is a pretty well-rounded park. And with Lodge on the Lake and the absolutely massive campground, you could go spend a couple days at Six Flags Darien Lake and have a solid time.